Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, where once again we've got to do some talking and again just try and understand the entire situation at Barca. Because, for instance, even in today's video, there is some very, very good news and really positive news for the long-term future here, looking at the long-term in terms of returning to the one-for-one rule. We're going to be talking about that, exactly what that means for Barca in terms of signings and in terms of the transfer window. But then we've also still got this whole situation surrounding Dani Olmo and Pau Victor and their registration, which is a separate issue, and it is still ongoing. Where are we with that? And what on earth is happening, guys? So all of that is coming up for you today. Try and relax yourselves if you can. And by the way, it's match day 2. But let's just talk here about the news. Let's do this. Because indeed, guys, let's start by talking about that return, that all-important return to the one-for-one ruling in La Liga and what that means for Barca. Because it's really, really important here to understand how important this is. You know, there is a reason why Barca, Joan Laporta, the Barcelona board, they have been working, they have been striving, they've been really tirelessly going for this outcome for many, many years now. It has been a work in progress. It has been a really, really long road. And now we are finally here. And I guess it's really frustrating in a way that all of this has happened. We've returned to the one-for-one rule at probably the worst moment. You know, the feeling right now amongst the Barca fans, it is not good. It is a bad feeling. There is a lot of frustration towards the board because of the registration issues we're going to go on to talk about. And that is justified, by the way. But at the same time, taking away that situation, returning to the one-for-one rule, it is massive for the club moving forward. Because what that means, let's just remember here what exactly that means. In La Liga, with all of these new restrictions they brought in, with all of the regulations because of now fair play in La Liga, remember that up until now, Barca have simply not been able to operate one-for-one in La Liga. They have not been on the same level as Real Madrid, the same playing field there as Real, as Atletico, who have been operating one-for-one. Barca, because of all of the financial issues when Laporta took over, the fact that we were really hemorrhaging money in many ways, particularly in terms of the wage bill, we were then placed under really severe restrictions, which meant at first we could only spend 1 for 4. We could basically spend €1 at Barca within the wage bill there, within our restrictions in fair play. We could spend €1 for every 4 that we generated as a club. So for instance there, if you had an incoming signing at Barca, you'd agreed all the personal terms with them, the transfer fee was no problem at all, but certainly there, in terms of registering those wages, if Barca just wanted to bring in there a player on 100k a week, for example, which these days, by the way, doesn't even get you that much. That's the very basic salary for somebody coming into Barca, 100k a week. Under those previous restrictions, you know, 1 for 4, we would have to prove that we had generated 400,000 a week in terms of wages there. So just to register there, that one single player on 100k a week, we would have to justify, we would have to allocate 400k to make it happen. And that is a very, very complicated situation to be in. It means that even when Barca were generating money, generating real income, the revenues have been there. You know, everybody should be able to see that. That's why when people say Barca have got no money, that is absolute nonsense. That is ridiculous here. We are one of the clubs within world football who generate the most money out there. This is not a club that doesn't have any money. We have just been under significant restriction there in how we can use it. And over the years there, that has improved. We've gone to 1 for 3, whereby, again, 100k of wages, you'd need to allocate 300k there to prove that you could make that happen. And just think now, we are basically returning to our normal level, our natural state now in La Liga, to be able to operate 1 for 1. If we want to bring a player in, the question is ultimately then, can you afford them? Which already the club need to look into. They need to be absolutely sure, and we need to plan a lot better than we have done, believe me. But the question will simply be, can you afford them? Because if we want to sign a player there and bring them in on 300k a week, we now just have to prove, we just have to justify now that same 300k. So it's a very, very big difference there. Returning to this one-for-one rule, it gives Barca power again in the transfer window, and ultimately it opens up doors, it opens up the possibility for doing business, and also in terms of sales, don't forget, guys, because back then, when we were under those very significant restrictions, if we sold a player for, say, 100 million euros there, we made a massive, massive sale, brought huge money in, and that would be a really, really big deal for Barca. But say, for instance, a few years ago, if we'd have sold Frenkie de Jong for massive, massive money when the offers were coming in, say 100 million, if we were still on, say, that 1-for-4 ruling in La Liga, we would only be able to use, of that 100 million that we've brought into the club, we could only use 25 million of it. I mean, that is absolutely crazy there. So that's what I mean when people say, oh, Barca don't have money. It's not necessarily that we didn't have the money coming in, that somehow we weren't generating that income. The issue was about using it, being allowed to use it. And there's absolutely no denying that La Liga's restrictions, they've certainly gone to the extreme. You've seen different ones come in now throughout the leagues. The Premier League certainly now is starting to focus more and more on fair play, but they are absolutely nothing compared to what we're seeing in La Liga. They went really, really far, and too far, and particularly when it came to Barca, we were really placed under those significant restrictions. But now, all of that is over. We are back on 1-for-1. We are back on level footing, really. And now we can start to plan again in the right way. We can start to attack the areas that we need to. And that is why, guys, no matter what we're going to go on now to talk about in terms of those player registrations, the frustrations that we still do feel within us, this is still a big deal. This is something that we have been waiting for. We were told that it was coming. We were expecting that it was coming. Month upon month upon month, we have been waiting. Now it has arrived, and it is a significant moment for the club moving forward, and at some stage we will be able to celebrate it. Because indeed, guys, obviously right now, that is not the only thing that is going on. At the same time here, we are experiencing a lot of different emotions, and a lot of them very, very negative when we're talking about the registrations of Dani Olmo and Pau Victor in La Liga, which, as we know, Barca, they missed the deadline. There's no other way around that here. It doesn't matter what we hear from Barca about holidays, about receiving money, about sending documents there, about La Liga. At the end of the day, I'm willing to hold my hands up and say, we missed the deadline for the registrations, and as a result of that, both of those players became unregistered, and there's no real way around that there. There's no way of justifying leaving everything until the last minute and missing the deadline as a result. But of course, Barca being Barca, I didn't expect them to give up. I certainly would hope that they were not going to give up on this, and Joan Laporta is absolutely determined to somehow get them registered again. But the problem is, guys, yesterday we heard a lot of different rumours all the way through the day. We were told, first of all, that by midday yesterday, it would be done. That Olmo and Pau Victor would be registered, and it would all be completed. It would all be fine. Barca had real faith, real confidence, real belief that the RFEF and La Liga would accept the registrations, and all would be okay again. But then even yesterday, midday came and went, and this is something that consistently happens at Barca. They will say, look, this is what we're doing. It's okay. It will all be solved. It will all be resolved on this time, on this day. It'll be fine. And then it doesn't happen. And it almost makes it worse that we hear about this optimism, that we hear about the faith the club have and that they're confident and that it's going to happen. And then it doesn't. It makes it worse that we have these sort of promises, we have these words, but that they are unable to deliver upon that. Because most of the things that you see, guys, certainly they're looking at the Catalan media, they are being briefed by the club. If you hear that Barca are feeling really confident and they're sending out clear messages like, okay, it's going to happen today, we are really, really certain of that, and then it doesn't, it is still coming from Barca. Somebody somewhere is providing information to influence the media, and it comes from Barca, and it comes, I don't know, is it delusion? Is it that they genuinely thought that yesterday that La Liga and the RFEF, they'd go back on their word, that they would ultimately go back on their principles, when we know for a fact, the likes of Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, all of these other La Liga clubs, they are waiting, they are watching this situation very, very intently. And I think if La Liga or RFEF, if they went back on their word, there would be uproar in the league. And Barca still, though, had the belief that they just changed their mind, that they would still be allowed to be registered days after the deadline. Like I say, is it delusion? Is it actually people inside of the club there? Joan Laporta, did they honestly think that it would happen in our favour? Why would you assume that that would be the case? And the problem is not actually here only about us fans. I wish that we weren't put through the paces as much as we were. I wish that we were not constantly on an emotional roller coaster. That would be better for all of us. But then I also think of the players, and that is the problem yet again now, because here the day after, we're hearing about Dani Olmo, we're hearing about Pau Victor, and the fact that, again, even they were told that, yesterday, it was all going to be made okay. Hansi Flick in his press conference yesterday, he openly said, well, I've spoken to the president, I've spoken to those inside the club, they have given me assurances, they have given me confidence, even though Hansi Flick did admit this is not a good situation. This is absolutely not good for anybody within the club, but I do have confidence. And what that means now is that here today, the players are sad. The players are disappointed that, again, what they've been told, just like in the build-up to the deadline of the registrations, they were told that it was going to happen, and it never did. And that is really damaging on an emotional level. These players, again, they're having to train every day. They're with the squad. It's supposed to be a really united, driven, focused group of players at Barca right now, ahead of restarting our games again. And it's not happening. And yet that dynamic, what Flick is trying to create, the atmosphere that he's been so intent on creating at the club, it's being damaged by the actions of the board. And that is why right now, again, we're just looking at legal routes. Again, now it's going to be a case of we've got to take our own case to the courts and hope that they rule in our favour. And again, I'm sure that you'll hear, Barca, it's okay, they didn't expect La Liga to change their mind, even though they seem to have done. They didn't expect the RFEF to change their mind, but they are confident now that the courts will rule in their favour. But once again, let me just say, we spoke about all this days ago. We said the same thing there before the deadline on December the 31st. Barca went to court. They went to court twice to try and get these players registered, and twice it was rejected, and it did not go in our favour. So I think right here, Barca have to get a grip on this situation, and what they need, and what we all need to see, is Joan Laporta. Because like I say, even yesterday, they allowed Hansi Flick to go into his press conference ahead of today's game against Barbastro, and he had to answer questions about the registration issues. He is not the one who should be being asked. He is not the one here who should be fronting up this operation. Where is Laporta? Why is he not addressing the situation publicly? Come out and let us know where we all stand. Let the players know in an honest way what is happening here. Don't keep us in the dark. Don't keep saying day upon day upon day, it's going to happen. It's going to be okay. We've got confidence. We do not want words. We want action at this stage. And we cannot go on like this. We have games to focus on. We have important games to play. Flick needs his squad focused. He needs his players available. And we're going to see in these days to come and ahead of the Super Cup what is going to happen. And where do you stand right now on everything that we are seeing? Because like I say, it is honestly frustrating and disappointing, and it really is demoralising in many ways. But at the same time, we've got good news. We just returned at last to the 1-for-1 rule. I want to celebrate that, but at the same time, we have to get these registration issues resolved, or at least accept the situation. But let me know, guys, in the comments down below, how are you feeling right now? How have you felt over the past few days throughout all of the reports that we have been hearing? So please let me know, guys, in the comments down below, your honest opinions right now. Hopefully from Barca later on, we get a positive result in the Copa del Rey. I will see all of you guys tomorrow for the full reaction on that. But please enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I will see all of you soon. But until next time, as always, Vesca, El Barça.